Prabhupada warned about this. He's given the one. He was asked directly in 1975 in Berkeley, what is going to happen to the movement when you die? Prabhupada's immediate reaction, I shall never die. I shall live from my books and you will utilize. In July of 1975 in Berkeley, California. So this nonsense idea that somebody is going to act thinking that their physicality is now more important than Prabhupada, this is simply nonsense. Very important point. I see that our friend Nilesh Prabhu in Miami is there. He probably has some very good insight to share with us.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Prabhuji, I had a question. You had sent some emails about Prabhupada's this talk that I shall never die and I'll live in my books. And there was another quote which was over there, which I'd never seen before. It says, after me, there'll be no other person. After me, there'll be no other guru.
This was a conversation very early on in 1967 in New York, where one devotee, Rohini Kumar, at that time brahmachari, he personally told me that story, where somebody went and asked Prabhupada, who's going to be your successor after you die? Prabhupada said, after me, there will be no more Acharya, Acharya meaning like him. So Prabhupada was very, very careful to basically explain in his books how the disciplic succession or the teachings would be continued. Also in November of 1977, a few Indian gentlemen went to Prabhupada and they wanted to request that an Indian should be the leader of the organization of ISKCON. And Prabhupada said, we don't have no such thing as Indian or this person. Anybody who follows, I'm paraphrasing here, anybody who follows can be leader. Prabhupada did not designate any successor Acharya, a singular or a group of Acharyas. What he did from the record that we have, the available record, is that he nominated certain individuals to represent him in a capacity of officiating on his behalf. Now, they don't like that, and the reason is for that, the reason they don't like that, because they've developed a philosophy of minimum qualification and maximum puja and maximum money grab. But that is not the philosophy that Prabhupada taught. Prabhupada taught first become qualified, then become a spiritual master. Now, the problem is now it's come to the concoction that we have people by election, by vote, and this is the breakdown of order that Prabhupada gave. This nonsensical idea that Prabhupada said because he nominated certain individuals to manage the society, therefore they can say anything, they can do anything. No, it's not like that. There's a conversation on a morning walk in September of 1976 in Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, Krishna doesn't need any temple president or GBC. He can do the work himself. Krishna does not depend upon any temple president or GBC. It's right there in a Prabhupada conversation book. Of course, Prabhupada gave positions to different people for service, but if somebody thinks that he becomes puffed up and thinks they can concoct and manufacture interpretations and invent new mantras and all kinds of nonsense, that's when you have the so-called mission drift and the breakdown of the actual teachings. But that conversation, I've not seen that conversation in any recorded form, what you're referring to, but I have reason to believe that this was accurate, because we don't see that Prabhupada ever appointed any Acharya after him. There's no record of it. I mean, recently, this whole argument about living successor, my point is, where did we get these ideas from? We hear from Prabhupada. Well, where did Prabhupada hear these ideas from? From his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Where did he get his idea from? From his father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Why is it that there's no record anywhere of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1914 when he departed, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur when he departed in 1937? There's no record anywhere of them appointing or nominating or selecting a living Acharya after them. Did they know about Guru, about living Guru? The fact is, they were not interested in this neo version of caste Brahmanism. They were only interested in preaching through literature, Briyat Madanga, the preaching. That was the major feature of their mission. This idea that they appointed some successors, and this is all nonsense. This is all fabrication. People should not fall for this nonsense propaganda.
So then, based on what you are saying, is that if Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati did not nominate anybody, and he said that one of you will become the self-effulgent guru or acharya, one of you, not several of you, just one of you, and that has been verified by looking at the transcripts also, then obviously Bhakti Keshav Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of Narayan Maharaj, he is not authorized to initiate. So if he is not authorized to initiate, then his disciple, Narayan Maharaj, becomes unofficial. So anything what Narayan Maharaj says is also humbug.
There's a letter on the 28th of April, 1974, to one Rupanuga Das, who was at GBC at the time, where Prabhupada says, amongst my godbrothers, none of them are qualified for becoming Acharya. Now, he didn't say except this one, except that one. No. Prabhupada warned. He did not want ISKCON to become Gaudiya Math Part 2 with this nonsensical falsehood that everybody just jumps and become Acharya. And I know what they'll say. They'll say, oh, no. Prabhupada said in one letter, when the Guru departs, everybody can become Acharya. Well, that may be, but there's also restriction. You can't do everything independently or whimsically. In Nairobi, Kenya, Africa, in October of 1975, they asked Prabhupada directly the question. An Indian gentleman asked Prabhupada, how did you become the leader of the Krishna Consciousness movement? Prabhupada said, when my guru ordered me. And Prabhupada goes on, he says, you cannot become a guru independently, only when the guru orders. They knew. Even if that letter was written in 1975, why is it that in 1977 they went to Prabhupada and asked him that question? Because they knew nobody would accept their statement unless it was verified by Prabhupada. If this proof of this May 28, 1977 conversation is such evidence of their so-called appointment, why didn't they bring it up and play that tape in front of everybody and discuss it with all the temple president, all the sannyasis, all the senior devotees at the meeting at Mayapur in 1978? Why is it that that transcript of that tape took almost 10 or 11 years to come out, the complete unedited transcript? Why? Why is it that Prabhupada's will took 9 or 10 years to be fully available to devotees? What was the political agenda of people who suppressed that information, people who suppressed the discussion? Why did these same individuals suppress and deny Prabhupada's desire to, of all of his disciples, come to Vrindavan? And we're supposed to believe the integrity of these people? After they suppressed Prabhupada's last desire to see all of his disciples to come to Vrindavan, devotees should not be naive. They should be not naive to believe all of these stories and these fabrications. Very important. Maybe Vishwakarma can shed some light on this too.
Well, it's very true, Nilesh, that I was in India in 1978. I was actually elected by our peers to be the chairman of the Temple Presidents Association back then, because the GBC was a top-heavy organization, and they were simply manipulating territory for their own personal purposes. That there is no question. And it was very apparent because I was the first person to sit in a GBC meeting in Mayapur in 1978. I sat between Bhavananda and Bhagawan, and not one mention was made of these directions given by Prabhupada to us, to any of us, on how he wanted the mission to be handled after his departure. Not one mention. So it's obviously a conspiracy by some people who had taken these roles to cover this up so that they could move forward and divide the world up according to zones and become zonal guru acharyas. And in Toronto, we had a majestic building that we had bought for Srila Prabhupada. He called it a topmost triumph for Krishna. And they were constantly coming there. Hansaduta came, Tamal Krishna came, Satsrup came, Gopal Krishna came, Keith Ham came, all of them trying to politic to get the peace of the empire that was sitting in Toronto north of the Parliament buildings. So this is the reality, and it's important for people to know the history, and then we move forward accordingly. One more point, Prabhu, please go ahead.
So you were talking about the zonal Acharya system, and
Yes.
looking in hindsight,
Yeah.
I was thinking, in hindsight, if you were to look at it, that these people were so stupid that they declared themselves as gurus, but the purpose was they were supposed to be ritviks. So the
Yeah.
zones were meant so that anybody who wanted to get initiated would go to that zonal ritvik who is nearest to him and get initiated to Srila Prabhupada. But these people divided it and called themselves zonal acharyas and divided on geographical boundaries when an acharya has no, he's transcendental.
Yeah.
He's beyond time, space, and matter. So they were so stupid that they did not even realize this mistake, and they rushed into the zonal acharya system, and then they realized, no, we can't do that, and they regressed backwards. So if you look at every step which they made, even when they were trying to fool, they could not
Yeah.
fool intelligently. They were so
Yeah.
stupid. They're so involved with Maya. Am I right in this interpretation? Yaśodā-nandana
Yes,
Prabhu?
well, I'll answer. You're very right. And this is an unfortunate history, and it's important for us to study it so that we can understand how we should remain faithful to Srila Prabhupada in his Vani incarnation. This is an important point in terms of our philosophy, that Prabhupada lives in sound, and that sound is the method by which we elevate ourselves out of the conditioned state of life. One last comment from Yaśodā, and then we'll move to the conclusion of today's discussion. Please.
I think that I'd like to take exception to one term that you use about stupid. There was a lot of stupidity involved. I think the word that we can agree on is the word motivated. And the proof of that is when they try to reform this whole system, they invented this voting system, this election system, which made no sense. This nonsensical self-assumption of Acharya created such a chaos and disturbance in the society, utpat, that when they realized there was such fall downs and controversy and political chaos, rather than go back to Prabhupada's instruction that people should be Prabhupada's disciple, initiated on his behalf by officiating representative, they basically exasperated the problem. They exacerbated the problem. There was one devotee in Denver who analyzed this. He says, now the disease has become an epidemic by this voting system. They concocted this voting system which makes no sense. Nowhere in Prabhupada's book does he describe how you become an acharya by voting. You can vote somebody in a position, a management position, but acharya, giving initiation, that's a spiritual position. That's why Prabhupada did not want this Gaudiya Math Part 2, this Gaudiya Math style imitation acharya. And Prabhupada warned about this in April of 1977. Prabhupada said, you can cheat, but it will not be very effective. Which reminds me of a conversation that devotees have pointed out in New York in the summer of 1971, where Prabhupada was asked, oh, Prabhupada, can we open hundreds of temples? Prabhupada says, yes, you can open hundreds of temples, but if you do not follow the instruction of the spiritual master, it will simply be show bottle. The Prabhupada's show bottle is like in India, you got a colored bottle and you have some liquid in it, but it's a show bottle. It has no effect. So similarly, yeah, people say, oh, we have hundreds of temples. Oh, yeah. Is that why now you're inventing mantras and doing car pujas and demigod worship and all kinds of concoction? This is the result of your nonsensical self-appointed status? Anyway, we're going to be having some special events with various devotees on a roundtable discussion. That's going to come up in a couple of weeks. We're discussing the format. And we're going to be discussing a lot of these Prabhupada's original instructions, what happened, how it can be rectified, what is the disciplic succession, how it was broken, what does Prabhupada say about this disciplic succession, and how to follow the disciplic succession, how to be connected, get a bona fide connection with the disciplic succession, what is Vani, what is Vapu, all of these important topics. We're going to be discussing it.